As many of you reminded the community last week when we compared Star Citizen to other space games, our favorite best damn space sim ever is still far from being a fully fledged game, and there's still a lot of work to be done. People of the verse, welcome to the channel. This is the Eradicator, and in today's video we will be talking about some of the many professions that have been promised to us and that have yet to be delivered. As most of you are aware, there have been quite a lot of them, and I won't be able to enumerate all of them, otherwise this video would have lasted for over an hour. And of course, no one wants that, so please leave a comment down below after the video if there is a profession that I left out that I should have included in today's list. Without further ado, let's get started. Here is our number one on the list. Of course, we ought to place Salvage at the top of our list. The profession has been on and off the roadmap for several years now, and based on what we learned from the latest episode of Calling All Devs, it appears that it is going to take several years until Reclaimer and Vulture owners will have a chance to clean the dust off their ships, as several key tools and features still need to be completed, or in some cases actually started. But perhaps the main reason why Salvage has repetitively been delayed for so many years is because the scope and the very nature of the profession has drastically changed over the years too. Originally, Salvage was supposed to be quite similar to mining and use similar mechanics. Eventually, it was decided that basing the profession on what mining does would be dull and repetitive, and so a different approach was adopted. As of now, Salvage has been split into 4 disciplines. Players will either have the chance to recuperate metals, components, gases such as breathable air and fuel, or just the whole carcass to compact everything, and then sell the whole thing to junkyards. And quite frankly, while the idea of having yet another mining type of profession didn't thrill me so much, I am quite looking forward to discovering those changes, and I do believe that CIG made the right call. Sure, it will take some time until Salvage becomes an actual profession in the verse, but I believe that in the end, Reclaimer and Vulture owners are going to benefit from those changes. Sure, one might argue that racing is already in the game, but come on, who is actually having it as a full-time activity right now? That's right, nobody, and that's because of several factors. First, we don't actually have actual racetracks like we have in Arena Commander. Second, the scramble races we have don't pay enough, and so no one thinks that it is worth their time, and so no one is racing in those. And finally, until Alpha 3.10, we won't have player-to-player transactions, so players haven't had the chance to properly organize bets or easy emergent gameplay to enable a viable racing ecosystem. Sure, there have been already some punctual player-driven events such as the Daymar Rally, but they require a lot of organization and can't make racing a viable profession. Star Citizen Alpha 3.10 may change that and make racing a more exciting activity. We mentioned player-to-player transaction, and we also have to mention the upcoming Grimex expansions, which is going to add a racing hub for local residents who like to live dangerously. Sure, it's not going to be the Murray Cup, but it could potentially be what could kickstart a viable interest and actual vocations for the profession. One thing for sure, it can't be as bad as what we currently have right now in the verse. Here is another profession that one might argue is already in the game. I mean, even I made a few gameplay videos about it after the release of Alpha 3.9. However, what we are calling smuggling now will pale in comparison to what smuggling is slated to become in the future. Right now, smuggling only consists of transporting suspicious cargo or packages from Outpost A to Outpost B without getting caught by random police interdictions, so yeah, technically it is smuggling, but when we will have to actually deliver illicit chemicals or weapons into landing zones such as Lorville or New Babbage, while having to make sure to avoid the customs and local security forces, that is really going to be smuggling. In addition, CIG also wants security forces to be able to board transport ships for inspections, which is when hidden and secured compartments are going to prove handy. Unfortunately, there's still a long way to go and quite a few technological hurdles to overcome, such as working NPC security forces, to make actual smuggling a real profession. Here is another one that I am afraid we won't see for a long time because it is obviously non-essential for Squadron 42 and because it requires working NPCs as well as a dynamic economy in which NPCs and eventually players will have an actual reason to be transported from point A to point B. There's actually been quite a few ships designed with passenger transport in mind, such as the Constellation Phoenix, the 890 Jump, or the Crusader Genesis Starliner, which, as its name implies, is going to be an actual Starliner capable of mass transporting dozens of passengers from one starport to another. According to the few tidbits of information that we were told, running a Starliner is going to be quite difficult, yet an exciting task because passengers just won't content themselves with a sit. They will expect a whole set of services such as drinks and food and a crew of flight attendants, and will complain and tarnish your reputation if you fail to cater to their needs. This is obviously not going to be a priority for a while, and it makes me wonder if I should not melt my own Genesis Starliner. Base building is a profession that I believe will come sooner than later for the simple reason that the main technological hurdle that blocks this profession is full persistence, which we know the devs are making a priority. Sure, we also need the Consolidated Outland Pioneer too, as it currently is the only ship in the lore that is currently capable of undertaking such tasks, but that's just a ship and surely making it come to life can't be as difficult as engineering a full persistence for a complicated MMO. I also believe that with the addition of such a lawless and desolate system as Pyro, base building is rapidly going to become a must-have, as we certainly won't be seeing any commercial outposts from any major corporation in any of the desolate planetary bodies of this system, thus reinforcing the necessity of having player-owned facilities. Not to mention that having them in a lawless system, where probably pretty much anything goes, would generate tremendous emergent gameplay, as players would be freely able to dispose of annoying competitors or rivals, while disturbed legitimate businessmen would in return be freely able to retaliate as they please. Base building in Pyro represents a tremendous opportunity to cause mayhem in the verse, and I can't wait for it to happen. Here's a profession that is, of course, closely tied to base building: farming, for the simple reason that in order to be able to build a farm, you will need an outpost or eventually an endeavor. In fact, there are already a few farms scattered around the verse right now, all located on the moons of Planet Crusader, Bountiful Harvest on Daymar, Galette Family Farms, and Terra Mills Hydroponics on Selene, so we can already have a good idea of what we should expect for such bases and how they could look like. Now, the way I expect farm to operate, and pretty much every player-owned production facility for that matter, is quite similar to how player-owned facilities do operate in a game like X4, for example. Players are going to have to acquire the resources needed for their production, make sure that they have enough personnel, human or NPC, to run the facility, and then either ship their production where there is a demand or wait until NPC or human traders come and buy the facility's productions. As far as I am concerned, this is the one profession that I hope I'll be able to have in the verse. Having a strong commercial empire is, in my eyes, a prerequisite to then be able to eradicate anyone who would stand in my way in the verse. In the future, every ship is going to be available, including capital ship like the Polaris or even the Idris. Those ships are going to be extremely expensive to acquire, but also to maintain, and having a constant and important income flowing into your coffers is going to be critical to allow ownerships of such vessels, which is why owning properties like farms or any production facilities is going to play a critical part in the verse. No, the med pens and the medical beds that we have in the Cutlass Red, the Karak, and the 890 Jump are not part of what medical gameplay is going to be in the future. Right now, they are either conveniences or placeholders. actual medic gameplay is in fact going to be very different from what we have right now. In fact, one of the requirements needed for this profession is coming up in Star Citizen Alpha 3.10, and that is, of course, body dragging. Medics will have to be able to take incapacitated combatants out of the action in order to be able to properly be able to administrate them the required treatments to revive them. It's also important to keep in mind that the current medical beds that we have right now in the games represent the tier 0 of medical gameplay, and that there will be different types of medical beds in the future that will offer various levels of services and quality of treatments. For example, we were told that the Cutlass Red, which represents the entry level in terms of medical ships, will only able to treat certain injuries, but probably won't be able to act as a respawn point, something that will probably be reserved for the Karak, the 890 gems, and actual medical models of the Misk Endeavor. Speaking of the Cutlass Red, it has been also very often referred to be as the Space Ambulance, and no one gets healed in an ambulance. I think that in the future, Cutlass Reds will be used by medics to place injured characters into their medical beds, which will only be there to stabilize a patient's conditions until the ship safely makes it to a proper medical facility where the patient will receive proper care. Remember, death of a spaceman will be a thing in a distant future, and one won't just casually die in the future the way we casually die in the verse right now. So, got a joke for you guys. What are explorations good for in the verse right now? Nothing! Well, that could have been a good joke made by the jolly new Babbage greeter, but it is the sad reality of Star Citizen in 2020. However, that won't always be the case, and when full persistence finally becomes a thing, players will be able to use their explorer ships to map out the universe and inform other players about resources, deposits, points of interest, and jump points. This has never been my cup of tea in any space game, but that doesn't mean that I am not looking forward to exploration mechanics being in the game. I am very much looking forward to exploration because I am an explorer's typical client, too lazy to do the tedious work of exploring, yet eager to know what was found and where. Now, this is the profession that my friend Segelion and his buddies at Ultima Energy are waiting for, the ability to refuel stranded citizens around the verse, which is obviously not something that we can do right now, but is definitely planned for the future, as it is going to be the main purpose of the Starfarer, which we have in the verse right now, but is quite useless. One might argue that it can be used for trading, but it is just so slow, and I would rather do 2 runs with a Freelancer Max than a bulky Starfarer. Anyway, the Farer was sold to us with the idea of being able to collect fuel from gas giants or space, refine it on board, and sell it to other players like a mini transportable gas station. As of now, we still don't know when this type of gameplay is going to be available to backers, but with the Pyro system making its way into the verse Star Citizen soon, we should expect it to see some sort of tier 0 next year, as you probably won't find any Cryastro services in such a lawless location. I purposefully saved that one for the end because obviously this is something that a lot of players are very much anticipating, including myself, and it appears that this is a profession that may see its tier 0 happening sooner than later with the implementation of cargo decks in Star Citizen about 3.11, where players will be able to store commodities, buy and sell what is going to be available there, and of course, that profession will only truly be complete when the Banu Merchantman or the Kraken Privateer, which are scheduled to be flying shopping centers capable of carrying thousands of SCU, or even features their own shop, which will be operated by hired NPCs, will be in the verse. While it currently doesn't make much sense to have merchants now, we should expect the profession to be fleshed out as more star systems gets available and player bases become a reality. And that's it for the top 10 professions backers are waiting for. Did I miss anything? Please tell me in the comments down below. Your feedback is always appreciated. Also, if you liked today's content, please consider dropping a like or even subscribe, as it helps this channel a lot. As far as I'm concerned, thank you very much for spending the time to watch this video, and I wish you a great day wherever you are. This is the Eradicator, and I'll see you guys later.